Thank you for joining us for tonight's Midwest Mountaineering Outdoor Adventure Expo virtual presentation. My name is Sheridan and I will be moderating tonight's presentation. It is my pleasure to introduce Rudy Hargesheimer, who will be presenting on his new book, The Superior Hiking Trail Story, which came out in April of this year. Rudy is a former Midwest Mountaineering manager and worked here at the store for 40 years. He also served 12 years as a volunteer board member for the Superior Hiking Trail Association and as president of the association for 6 of those years. Rudy has shared an 8-minute video with us from the trail, which I will be playing momentarily. After which, Rudy will take over to tell us more about his book and the history of the Superior Hiking Trail. If you have any questions, feel free to enter them in the chat below, and Rudy will be answering those questions at the end of his presentation.
The Superior Hiking Trail is a premier 300-mile natural surface footpath that travels along the rocky ridgeline on the north shore of Lake Superior in Minnesota. The Superior Hiking Trail Association is the nonprofit organization that protects, renews, and enhances the trail. Do you know the story behind how the SHT came to be? Rudy Hargesheimer, an award-winning photographer, recently published a book, The Superior Hiking Trail Story, to tell the tales of the trail and capture the essence of the SHT through his photography. Rudy and SHTA staff member Jaron Kramer recently hiked to the scenic Section 13 cliffs to chat more about Rudy's involvement with the SHTA and his new book.
Well, Rudy, tell me a little bit more about your involvement with the Superior Hiking Trail Association.
Well, it started almost right away in 1986 when the trail first started being put on the map.
Wow.
I didn't know about it, so I discovered it like everybody else did, but I was one of the early people. I think I'm member number 85.
Oh, that's great. So you were a board member early on?
Yeah, starting in about 1990, and I witnessed at those board meetings the evolution of the trail and all its successes and failures, and there were lots of both, and some ups and downs of how it all happened. Literally lots of ups and downs.
What inspired you to finally write the Superior Hiking Trail story?
I had always wanted to share the history of the trail because I didn't think that most of the current hikers knew much about it. There's hardly anything in the trail guidebook.
Yeah.
And there's so much to tell. Not only the success stories, but some of the interesting not success stories. Like some of it involved the section of trail we're hiking on right now. The Section 13 trail, is a good example of a success and a failure of the early days of the Hiking Trail Association. The problem we had was that ridge line, the horizon line over there, is private land, and our solution ended up being over creating a 15.8-mile detour that linked where we're standing to Crosby-Manitou State Park.
We took the opportunity to ask Rudy a little more about his new book at this scenic destination.
All the North Shore visitors are going to be interested, should be interested in this story, because so much of it is about the landscape of the region.
Yeah.
And most people, even if they don't know about the Superior Hiking Trail, they stumble upon it while they're up here and discover it, and this tells them the who, how, when, where, what, why of its existence. And certainly the 5,000 members of the Superior Hiking Trail Association, currently in 2020, should be interested. And the long-distance hikers coming through, they should be aware of what they're walking on and why it's here.
Yeah.
I think it's an important asset to knowledge of the hiking trail. The guidebook is excellent, the data book is excellent, the maps are excellent, all the digital information available is excellent. This is background story that adds to all that.
So Rudy, tell me a little bit about how the Superior Hiking Trail story is arranged.
Well, the book tries to tell the history of the Superior Hiking Trail, not in chronological order, like a normal history book, but in geographic order. So for instance, section 13 right here, the chapter's in the middle of the book. The Canadian border's at the end of the book.
Gotcha.
The Duluth and Jay Cook, the Wisconsin border at the beginning of the book. After the brief early history of the trail, we jump right away to the geographic order of things at the Wisconsin border. And I've got photographs and quotes from people. The book is filled with quotes of hikers, which in the old days we called them sentiments from the heart. They were in the Trail Register logbooks. So a bunch of them are there about the very beginning of the trail, and these people with exclamatory remarks about how wonderful it is to finally finish the trail. Both the trail got finished and they finished hiking the entire trail.
Wow.
So then the book moves on into Duluth through Jay Cook State Park, talks about the big storm that washed out the bridge.
Right.
And then in Duluth, multiple people were involved, and give them credit for the tremendous amount of work they did building 40 miles of trail through a city, most of which ended up having a wilderness-like appeal.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's wonderful, yeah. The next chapter, which goes from Duluth to Two Harbors, is mostly a walk in the woods. Not the greatest for a great mountaintop scenery or big waterfalls, but I talk a lot about volunteers that built that section of trail and the entire trail after 1993. And then we go chapter by chapter from Two Harbors to the Canadian border, highlighting places like this, the grand views, the big waterfalls, the tremendous vegetation changes like maple forest here. And there's a lot of background thrown in, like what was here before the trail got built.
Sure.
So a lot of places the trail follows old logging roads or logging railroads, and I talk about the history from the turn of the century, like 1900, of what the land was like and how it directly affects where the Superior Hiking Trail is now.
So Rudy, tell me a little bit more about the photography that's included in the Superior Hiking Trail story.
Before I became a writer, I was a photographer and still am. And I was documenting the North Shore before the Superior Hiking Trail ever existed, with trying to take photographs that catch this kind of scenery and share the awe of it with people. So I've got over 400 of my color photographs are in this book. They try to capture the essence of the trail, tell the story of the trail, and in a lot of cases directly correlate with the quotes, the sentiments from the heart of hikers that were at that spot and had something to say about that scene. So it might have been a poem that they wrote. I put the poem in here.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah.
So if someone's interested in purchasing the book to read the story, or if they want to buy it as a gift for one of their loved ones who's interested in the trail or the North Shore or some beautiful photography, where can they find the Superior Hiking Trail story?
The best place to buy it, frankly, is from the Superior Hiking Trail Association, because all the proceeds go toward the trail, which is what most hikers of the trail are going to want. And from my website, northshorephotoart.com, and from bookstores along the North Shore. It's a great gift.
Yeah.
A birthday gift, Christmas, holiday gift, for anybody who loves the North Shore and the Superior Hiking Trail, which is a lot of people.
All right, and now here is Rudy.
Hi. Thanks for coming, everybody. I understand that the movie you just saw and this entire presentation will be available later
for, after tonight. Not sure when, but sometime, in case you want to share it with friends or see it again. Be sure to add your questions to the chat, as Sheridan suggested. And I'm going to show you what I consider an old-fashioned slideshow, talking about how this book got produced and what it's about. So maybe you remember me if you're a longtime customer. I was around Midwest Mountaineering for 40 years. I've done over 100 of these Expo presentations over the years on all kinds of topics. But one of the ones that was most consistent was, in fact, the Superior Hiking Trail. I probably did 40 presentations just on the trail, because I've always been really enthused about it. Before the trail existed, which started in 86, 87, I was already a big fan of the North Shore, taking photos like these. And when the Superior Hiking Trail came along, it just added to the palette of amazing places. It's wonderful up there. So in 1986, I came across a sign on the trail, and I had not seen it before. And I thought I knew everything. I had hiked every river, backpacked and hiked every known trail, skied all the ski trails. And all of a sudden there was this sign that said Superior Hiking Trail. And what it was the trail that connected currently Mount Laveau to Britton Peak. And it was simply a Forest Service trail called the Superior Hiking Trail. But then it was like within a week, I saw in the Star Tribune this article, and it introduced this new version of Superior Hiking Trail, the proposed 186-mile trail on the Superior Ridgeline from Duluth to Hovland. And in fact, as we know now, it's over 300 miles long. And it took a long time in coming to get here. This article explained that it was going to be a unique trail in Minnesota because it was not going to be a state park trail or a U.S. Forest Service trail. It was going to be a cooperative trail, similar to the Appalachian Trail out east, where different jurisdictions had a say in it, but one nonprofit, the Superior Hiking Trail Association, would manage it. Bill Anderson, one of the board members of the Superior Hiking Trail Association, came to Midwest Mountaineering in '88, and he did a slideshow talk about the trail. My enthusiasm hooked him. He convinced me, therefore, to become a board member myself. So soon I was serving on the board, going up to the North Shore at least once every 2 months. And 6 of those years, I was the president of the trail. And every one of those meetings I went to was phenomenal because I was introduced to brand new sections of trail, which I would hike the next day. And I took a lot of photos, and I kept thinking to myself, I should do a photo book, not only about the North Shore, but about this wonderful trail. I was introduced to Caribou Falls and, of course, Gooseberry Falls. These are all pictures from the hiking trail or very nearby. These are from the book. There's over 400 color photos in the book. Top of Oberg Mountain. It's fantastic in fall color season, as is Lutsen and Mount Laveau, that area. Lake Agnes, and of course the Cascade River. So pretty early on, at first one being on Carlton Peak, the Trail Association put up these trail register logbooks. just notebooks that you could handwrite your notes about what you were thinking on that day and how much you enjoyed or hated the trail. And a lot of the quotes in there are really good. They're poetry, they're philosophic, a lot of interesting things. So I said, I should put some of those quotes into a book with my photos because they go together. And while I'm at it, might as well tell the history of how the trail came to be. So that's the gist of what my mind was thinking when I started this book. And Judy, my mate, said, just do it, because I procrastinated a lot. The photos and the maps were all produced by me. It took 30 years of experience building, maintaining, helping, managing, promoting the Superior Hiking Trail Association to gather all this information. The book is not specifically sponsored by the Superior Hiking Trail Association. It's my personal endeavor to really promote this trail and drum home the fact that it was volunteers that sustain the trail and are going to keep it going into the future. In a nutshell here, if you're not already aware, it's 310 miles long. It's volunteer maintained, member supported. Right now there's over 5,000 dues paying members. There's 94 campsites. 83 different sections are adopted by volunteers to maintain. They go out at least twice a year to inspect and do at least minimal maintenance of the trail. Major maintenance happens with big groups that get together and or sometimes paid construction crews. It's easy access. One of the most important things is that it's 300 miles long, but you can jump on and off it every 10 miles or less to do short little day hikes. And there's over 50 parking areas that give trail access, parking lots, which, by the way, most of them, at least I can say a lot of them, were built by the Superior Hiking Trail Association. We built the parking lots. So it's not just a matter of building a wonderful trail, it's building the infrastructure to help get there too. So they dreamed it up. Make a trail that follows that ridge line, the Sawtooth Mountains, connect 8 state parks. This is a short history. In the book, there's only about 6 pages that kind of in a nutshell try to tell the story from the beginning of who did what in the first year or two, specifically in chronological order. This is that section of my book. It's amazing what we did, because in 1986, the trail didn't exist at all. By 1993, it was called one of the great ones, 10 prime trails that leave all the others in the dust by Backpacker magazine. And by December 2000, it was rated the 2nd best long trail in the nation. But how did it get started? Lee Shar, the gentleman in the upper right, worked for the US Forest Service at the Tofte office. And he took a class at Clemson University. And his thesis paper was how to do this dream of building a multi-jurisdictional trail along the North Shore. The dream existed, but nobody had a practical idea of how it could be done. He provided the impetus. And John Schell, the gentleman in the blue shirt on the right, was the DNR Northeast Minnesota Regional Parks Administrator. He loved the idea. And he, more than anybody, got the bureaucracy rolling to make it happen. In 1986, January 28th, the day the Challenger space shuttle exploded, a day that everybody remembers for that reason, was the day they had their first meeting of Forest Service people, parks people, resort people, county forest people, they got together at Bluefin Bay Resort and decided, yeah, let's do this. That's when the Superior Hiking Trail Association was born, and the trail concept was developed and agreed that it was going to go forward. Soon after, Tom Peterson, the DNR employee that had designed and was in charge of building the North Shore State Trail, that's the snowmobile trail that runs parallel to the Superior Hiking Trail, not one and the same. Tom finished the North Shore Trail and was hired by the Superior Hiking Trail via the DNR to run or to develop, design, implement, and get going with the Superior Hiking Trail Association. And it went on from there for quite a while. At first, we had money from the Legislative Commission on Minnesota Resources. And that money lasted for 6 years. And that paid Tom Peterson's salary, plus some work crews. And a lot of trail got built, over 200 miles. My book, as a history book, is a little odd in that it details a lot of history, but not in chronological order. My book starts on chapter 1 at the Wisconsin border and goes to chapter 10 at the Canadian border. And each geographic section has its own history, and it's told in that format. This section, labeled Last Things First, was the last to be built and the first in the book. And it was a discussion that's talked about quite a bit in the book about how we, the Superior Hiking Trail Association and the North Country Trail Association, worked together and helped get everything going here. And a lot of people don't know it, but that where the Wisconsin border is, south of Jay Cook, south of Duluth, the North Country Trail continues eastward at least a short distance. When it's done, it'll go all the way to Vermont. And at the north end of our trail, at the Canadian border, the North Country Trail will go, and currently does go much of the distance, all the way to the Missouri River in North Dakota. That's 4,600 some miles. So I talk about that. I talk about volunteers. A lot of volunteers. And there's this gentleman in red t-shirt here is Kim Fishburn, one of the super enthusiast volunteers for the Superior Hiking Trail, who, as he says, has graduated, and he now is a super volunteer with the North Country Trail near Reamer. He's got his own section over there and needs help. So if you want anything to do, helping as a volunteer with more than the Superior Hiking Trail, talk to Kim. We did a lot of work. They did a lot of work, mostly different hundreds of volunteers working under the guidance of people that knew what they were doing, actually building the trail in the 2000s. So this section, the pictures here are from a section between Duluth and Two Harbors, near the Sucker River. In Duluth, Outside Magazine's best town ever, a lot of volunteers helped build, maintain, build, plan the trail through Duluth. There's 40 miles of trail in Duluth that 90% of it looks like it's in the wilderness, and it's really wonderful. The picture on the right is of Larry Sampson, one of the key leaders of trail development on the Superior Hiking Trail staff, and Mayor of Duluth, Emily Larson, dedicating the new Ely's Peak Loop. And down below are John Green and Judy Gibbs, two of the real big movers on getting the trail going through Duluth. It's beautiful there. Now, bridges are a common theme of problems to be solved on the Superior Hiking Trail, and it's unending. This is the Encampment River. A series of bridges were built. These photos, most of them, are courtesy of Gail Marie Henton. And she worked at the hiking trail office and worked with all these volunteers by providing lunch for them and helping out. The different bridges, in the upper left is the first bridge and then a sequence of other bridges, and you can see how complex it got. And the last bridge on the right, that one single board laying across some rocks, is the current bridge. It was decided at that time that as floods washed out every one of those other bridges, that because the river most of the time was almost dry, like that picture shows, you really didn't need a bridge there 90% of the time. And that's become a recurring theme on the Superior Hiking Trail. Bridges aren't always there. Split Rock River is another example. It's a beautiful place. There's about 9 different waterfalls on the loop trail that goes up and around and up to where the bridge used to be and back to Highway 61. This picture from 1992, it was a rough print picture in the first place and scanned and put in here. It's kind of fuzzy, but that's the first bridge over the Split Rock River. 2 cut logs, couple log posts, and some rope. That was as complicated as it got. They probably built that bridge in one day. It washed out. Bridge 2 is in the upper right. Bridge 3 is below that. Bridge 4 and 5 are the one on that's all bent and twisted. I'm going to read what it says on the side over on the right. Ben and Josh came hiking through the snow. We were pissed not to see the bridge. Bridge still out. Work to do. Beautiful. Shirt sleeves, snakes, and butterflies. RH. That's me. River roaring, bridge out. We'll try to swim it. Standing on blocks of river ice way up in the woods. If I don't make it across, please search for remains downstream or call RH above. That was signed by JS, my wife. These quotes refer to the second bridge. Ken Elkers had the third bridge built in 3 weeks. Later, it was dislodged, but the cable anchoring it to the right bank did its job. The bridge was pivoted back into place. Eventually, it was replaced by the A-frame bridge, the fourth bridge, which in turn was dismantled in 2016. At the time of this writing, 2020, there is no bridge, but the stream is fordable most of the hiking season. A new bridge is promised. I wrote that in early 2020. And since then, things have changed. This past spring, the Superior Hiking Trail Board decided that the promised new bridge was not going to get built. It's very expensive to build a proper bridge in far away from any road access. And 90% of the time, it's not even needed. They felt it was better to spend the money on other projects like these. That picture in the center, upper center, is about the worst place on the whole hiking trail. It's part of the Big Bad 5 on the Superior Hiking Trail loop. It's a beautiful loop right now. You have to walk across the stream at the top, and there's places on it that are extremely worn down, like that old staircase that's fallen apart. And the help is on the way. This has to be done with a lot of bureaucratic loopholes to jump through, much more than in the old days, to build a new staircase, for instance. You can't just go out there in one weekend and do it. It has to be approved by the state park, engineers, et cetera, et cetera. There's other aspects of the book. Oh, by the way, I meant to say it and I forgot. Midwest Mountaineering chipped in a lot of money to build that bridge on the Superior Hiking Trail at Split Rock River, and it never happened. And if you come to the store to buy the book, you'll see a little sign up pad there where you can sign the petition urging the Superior Hiking Trail Association to reverse its decision and build the bridge. I'll stay neutral on that. Part of the book talks about the history before the hiking trail ever got there. The picture in the upper left, that rock with people eating lunch on top, is a man-made stone quarry. You can't hardly tell it unless you're at the top looking down. You can see the remnants of mining equipment. They had built a tramway from that point where they chipped away the rock down to that big 6-story wooden building in Crystal Bay, just north of Tetagoose State Park. And they mined what they thought was good rock for making sandpaper. It turns out it was useless, and the company gave up. This happened in 1906. But since then, the company moved to St. Paul, and it's now called Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing, better known as 3M. This is where they started, right on the Superior Hiking Trail. Manitou River, gorgeous place. Crosby Manitou State Park, another bridge story. In the upper right is on my screen, I'm in the way, is an old wooden bridge crossing the river, built in 1989, and it was funded by a $500 grant from Midwest Mountaineering. That went a long ways in building that bridge, probably bought all the lumber. It still took a lot of effort to get all the lumber to the bridge site. That bridge was replaced in 2006 with the one in the lower right and the helicopter assist. And that one cost $60,000. And that is the way the new bridges are mandated to be these days, which gets real expensive real fast. It said it was funded by the LSCP. That's the Lake Superior Coastal Program, which is a nationwide, part of a nationwide National Weather Service, NOAA funding for projects across the country. It's amazing where we get money from sometimes. Here's a story. There's many stories about individual people. I'm going to read a tiny bit of this one. Ken Elkers. He would appear at the SHTA Executive Director Tricia Ryan's house in Two Harbors almost every day saying, "What's next?" And off he would go with his grandson, Kenny, as his co-worker. Ken and Kenny to the rescue. 4 years later, Ken was still working hard, and the new paid position, $15,000 per year, 60 to 70 hours per week, was offered to him. He had been doing that as a volunteer before. He became the new Superior Hiking Trail Association maintenance coordinator, still doing tons of work himself, but also organizing volunteer projects for hundreds of others who wanted to lend a hand. He never stopped. All winter long, he used a router to make the trail signs seen everywhere at trailheads and campsites. He had one time had 416 of these signs scattered in his house. He shared his story. "I had signs all over, in the kitchen, dining room, living room, bathroom, basement, upstairs, downstairs, and yes, even in the ladies' chambers." The lady, his wife, Lawena, relates her story about a typical workday with Ken. She quoted Ken, "Honey, could you carry those 4x4s up the trail? It's only about a quarter mile." Her response, "Right." Ken pre-built bridges in his driveway at home. This is still a very common procedure, getting them assembly ready for the trail. He said, "I just love this trail. I love chainsawing and weed whipping. Not many people do, you know. And why does he love this hard work? Because I know it makes for better experience for the people coming behind me. And it goes on talking about other wonderful things he did as both a trail angel doing that kind of work and as a trail angel supporting hikers and backpackers on the trail. On the far right, there's a nice little poem written by an ex-Midwest mountaineering employee about taking their two little kids up on the trail for the first time. It's kind of fun. Here's a story, I won't bother to get into it, but it's about Mary Ann and Dean Honetschlager from Marine on St. Croix. That's my town these days. And they did maintenance of a section of trail for quite a few years, starting on the first day that the volunteers were organized to do trail maintenance. That was 1994. In 2008, Dean said that he would keep at it for 5 more years. And in 5 years later, 2013, he was 80 years old. And he finally admitted that it was time to quit. There's true dedication of some of our trail volunteers is amazing. Here's another story of old. The woman in the fuzzy picture with the curly hair, that's Vivian Johnson. There was a trail register, log book register written by one of the hikers that came to the top of Carlton Peak. And I read it. I got there and I read this logbook entry. It said, "We came looking for Vivian Johnson's ghost." That perked my curiosity to no end. So I asked around, and it turned out Vivian Johnson was a local, and she was one of the last rangers to work at the Forest Service lookout tower. So you can see it behind her and in the black and white picture to the right, and you can see the footings of it on the top of the peak. So if you're ever up there wondering why are these concrete foundation footings up here for no reason at all, that's it. The 1953 Milwaukee Journal Sentinel women's pages had a big article about her. It was called "Women's Contentment is Lonely Tower Top Vigil." It was real fun to come up with things like that in my research. This is classic Superior Hiking Trail, Oberg Lake, fall colors, late September. Keeping going, I'm jumping over a lot of topics and places just to give you a small taste here. But at Judge Magny State Park, that's where the Brule River comes in and the very famous Devil's Kettle waterfall is. And of course, I tell the story of this mysterious waterfall. But here I'm telling the story about Judge Magny. That list on the right is 19 places and 19 different events where he was instrumental in creating state parks on the North Shore and elsewhere. So Jay Cook State Park, Gooseberry State Park, Baptism River, now called Tetagoose, Split Rock, Caribou River Wayside, Cadunce River Wayside, Grand Portage Historic Site, George Crosby Manitou State Park, Cascade River State Park, Brule River State Park, that's now called Judge Magny Park, Grand Portage National Monument, Cross River, Devil Track River, and Grand Portage State Park. All of those were built because Judge Magny pushed for it and helped create, it was his legacy that these parks exist. A fantastic person that we need to appreciate when we hike on the trail. Getting to the end of my talk here, this is not the Superior Hiking Trail. In fact, I'll read what I said. This is my quote in the upper right. It says, "If you think the Superior Hiking Trail is scenic, keep going. The Border Route Trail packs a wallop too. There is no Lake Superior, but there are Boundary Waters lakes, and true wilderness character is a plus. If you like wild, the BRT is it." Border Route Trail. I've been all over the world hiking and backpacking the great trails of the Himalaya, the Andes, Canada, Alaska, and most of the western and eastern states. Right here in Minnesota, we have some of the best backpacking and hiking, ! Combining the SHT, Superior Hiking Trail, and the BRT, Border Route Trail, add the Kekakabik Trail with even more pure wilderness. That's over 400 miles of continuous bliss. I'm lucky to be a Minnesota adventurer. And if you live anywhere close to these great Minnesota trails, I think you will agree with me. It just doesn't get much better than this. And then there's a plug down below for Ed Solstead, who is the father of the Border Route Trail, built in the 70s and early 80s. And here's a picture that you might wonder why I'm including it. That's a person standing on the top of Mount Josephine, looking down on the Suzy Islands and across to Isle Royal up at Grand Portage Indian Reservation. And the reason it's included here is because this used to be the Superior Hiking Trail. We built trail in the Indian Reservation in 1991 from Mount Josephine almost to the state park at the High Falls on the Pigeon River. Very fantastic section of trail, but it no longer is there. You'll have to get the book to read the story of what happened there. My book tells a lot of success stories and some failures like that one. That was the last slide. We're gonna leave this picture up for a while. It gives link addresses, so you know where to go if you want to buy a copy. And they're on sale right now at Midwest Mountaineering through the Outdoor Adventure Expo. You can buy them also from NorthshorePhotoArt.com. That's my website. And of course, from the Superior Hiking Trail Association website, superiorhiking.org. So with that, I'm done. Sheridan's going to share with us any chat items, if there are some questions, and I'll try to answer them.
Thanks, Rudy. That was great. There is a bit of a lag with the online, so we'll just wait a couple minutes while the presentation finishes up and see if anybody has any questions. I have a question for you to kick things off. I'm wondering if you have a favorite section of the Superior Hiking Trail.
Oh, that's the most common question of all.
I didn't claim it was creative.
No. They're all good. This cover picture that's Mount Laveau in the background, and the woman on the left is sitting on Oberg Mountain. That's got to be one of the top ones in late September when all the maples have turned. I go there almost every single year because of the maples, and it's always fantastic. Maybe that, but I like waterfalls. So the Caribou Falls is my favorite waterfall. There's the movie video before talked about section 13. That is a nice section because it's got interior lakes and big bluffs, cliffs, and fall colors. Too many choices.
Yeah, you really can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Not seeing anything come through the chat, so I guess we can wrap up here, unless you have anything else to add.
No, I've got nothing to add. I appreciate being honored to be a presenter at the Expo. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Rudy, and thanks everyone for joining us, and I hope you all have a good night.
Thank you.